everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Digital Artcast. Back at it again with another awesome episode and another awesome artist to boot. Someone who I have tried to chat with a couple of times, but obviously again conflicting schedules have intervened and we've ended up rescheduling a couple of times. But finally, I have got her on the podcast to chat about art and all things awesome with her life. So if you guys want to give up or big up for Lydia Zanotti. So what's up, Lydia? What's up?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries. Yeah, we were just chatting off here like for a couple of minutes before we started recording, but seems to say we just became best friends on air, so it was awesome. It's
Yeah, we did.
There was a moment. Yeah, thanks again for coming on, man. It's really nice for you giving up your time, especially because I have been getting people kind of commenting and emailing me and asking, when are you going to get some more female artists on the podcast? And I was like, dude, I'm working on it. I really am working on it. So, yeah, I think you're female artist number 3. So it's great to have you on and have you talk about your career because goddamn, we need some diversity in this podcast. Too many guys.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah. We do have conflicting schedules and the time zones, but
yeah, because you were calling me Future Boy the other day because I'm like 8 hours ahead of you in Scotland.
Boy.
Future Boy, that's my new nickname, Future Boy. But yeah, so you're in LA, so and you're working currently for Riot Games as an environment artist.
Yeah.
Which is your current, obviously, what you're doing just now. But you have obviously a track record that goes back a fair bit in other companies before you got to LA, before you started working with Riot, because that's obviously now kind of the well, maybe not the peak of your career, but definitely one of the high points that you've hit over the last couple of years working in the industry. So way back to the start, because a lot of people might know kind of your origins, but so you went to school for 3D specifically in college, university?
Actually, my story is a little funny in that I didn't go to school for 3D. I had an interesting background where I actually didn't even finish high school. I dropped out after 10th grade. And I ended up getting my GED and going to art school for drawing, painting, and I picked graphic design as my major. I was doing a lot of like typography and font design. And I took a couple like Unreal and ZBrush classes at a university near my art school so that I could, because I was a little bit interested, and they were teaching 3ds Max. And so I learned a little bit of 3D there, a couple classes, and then from there I just had to like teach myself 3D in my free time. I used like digital tutors, YouTube taught me pretty much everything I know in life.
See, there's no excuse. There is absolutely no excuse when people are like, I can't learn 3D because I can't get any CGMA or I can't get any Gnomon. There is so many resources out there. I tell people this all the time. Yeah, because a lot of people will say to me like, oh yeah, I need to go to Gnomon. Like I need to pay the money to go to that school in LA because you can't really learn 3D any other way. But there's resources out there, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Whenever I talk to students, I teach some online classes, do some mentorships, and I always try to give like as many resources as I can, like some insights how I learned. There's a dude on YouTube named Aramis 3D. That guy taught me so much. Shout out to that guy.
Aramis 3D.
Yeah, ARRIMUS. He posts a lot of videos and it's free, so you can't complain about free education.
Oh yeah, I found him on YouTube. Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, this guy's got a nice library of stuff. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And he's still posting. Yeah, his last post was like 2 days ago. So.
Yeah, he's consistent. So.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Awesome. That's what I've added that one to the subscribe list. So that's a perk for me as well. Also, thank you.
Yeah. Nice.
So then you were learning 3D as you were kind of college, finishing your general kind of art degree or qualification. What kind of pushed you then into kind of 3D full time? Did that come after you finished school?
So I went to art school. I was doing the graphic design and teaching myself 3D in my free time a lot. And I only went to art school for 2 years. And then I got a few job offers. I just started applying around at the end of my sophomore year. Just started applying around, and I heard back from the people who make Tony Hawk, and then the people who make Saints Row. And of
Okay.
course, I went for the Saints Row one because the other one was unpaid. So I ended up going for the for Volition, and that was my first game job. And I dropped out of art school because they ended up hiring me full time. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I
there
mean,
was no need to finish.
yeah, there was a really common tale there where I found that people have really found, I'm thinking even back to Justin Fields when I first interviewed him, although the interview never really came to anything because I lost the recording. But when Justin had talked about doing 3D at Nomon, he kind of only done, I think, 2 semesters, and then he had an offer straight away, so he just left. But probably, I think also that was combined because school at Nomon was costing him so much money, so he was like, I'm just want to go out and just start working in LA because it's so expensive to live here. But then we just interviewed Alison Perry, and Alison also was she went back to Art Center, and she left just before she graduated because she had a job offer as well. So yeah, I think in a way with the new generation of artists, school is almost not becoming irrelevant, but it's definitely there's a change in or a shift in the way that you see school now. Like you don't have to be so regimented, like you need to finish or you need to do so much. If you feel like you've got enough out of it, or you know that you can take those skills and move into work, then you can forge your own path. Now it's a lot easier than it used to be, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you put in the time and effort, it will really show in your portfolio. School can only teach you so much, but in your free time, just practicing and trying out new things, that's where you're really going to level up.
Yeah, definitely. And then so you went into Volation, and then you were saying it was Saints Row One when you started there, right? Like
No, no,
no,
Saints Row 1 came out many, many
I
moons
was
ago.
going to say because you said that, like I'm sure you said Saints Row One at one point. I'm thinking that's an old game. Like I don't know how long you've been in the industry, but yeah. So was it three then you were in for like the?
It was Saints Row. They were wrapping up Saints Row 4 DLC and starting on Agents of Mayhem when I started
Oh,
working
okay,
there. So I
right.
got in like pretty early in on Agents of Mayhem and wrote it all the way to the end till it shipped
Yeah, I
before
know.
I
Which
left the company. Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say because the first time I think we properly had an interaction, you were telling me off because I'd posted about like Agents of Mayhem. I know I'd posted. Funny story, guys.
Let's
Funny
talk
story.
about this. Let's talk about
Let's
it.
dive into this. So yeah, I posted on Facebook because I was still in the phase of like halfway between consumer and artist. So like I wasn't quite in the industry yet, but I was still playing video games, and I'd said that I wasn't surprised basically that Agents of Mayhem hadn't done well because I felt like it kind of had stayed to the formula of Saints Row, and the Saints Row at the end were kind of not doing so well, and I felt like they hadn't changed it enough that it was going to do great things or kind of pick the company back up. And then, of course, Lydia, being a former employee of the company, was not happy that I had posted that. Yeah, so she
Yeah.
she uh, she she gave me a telling and told me what for. So
Oh, I love
uh,
that game. I think it was a hard time too, because actually that was right after I left Volition and I started working at Amazon, and it was when Volition had some layoffs, and I think
yeah,
it was a hard time because at the same time there were layoffs happening at a lot of other
yeah,
studios. Telltale, Runic, a lot of other studios were
yeah,
having issues. Same with Visceral, so
yeah,
it was not a
yeah,
good year.
yeah. Because obviously, then a lot of your friends who you would have made, or the friends you would have made when you were at the company, would have been losing their jobs. So
Yeah, it was really sad
um,
to see that.
yeah, of course. And then it's the same, of course. I've over the years I met a couple of guys I know. We were talking about a couple of guys I know at Blizzard, and of course, luckily they weren't affected when the layoffs happened, but they did happen recently. And yeah, it's kind of a scary time I think in the industry because I think the whole studio-based stuff is kind of shifting, and people aren't as kind of know that game jobs are ever really secure, but they're kind of becoming less secure. And of course, this is now why people are talking about games unionization and something that needs to happen because you need to protect workers. And I just recently watched a documentary that NoClip put up about Telltale and about the last couple of days, and there's conflicting stories even with that, because a lot of the guys he interviewed would say, yeah, in Telltale we were handled quite respectfully and we got time to take stuff out. But then you'll find people online who haven't been officially interviewed will be like, yeah, we were told basically we had 30 minutes to leave the building, we couldn't get access to any of our stuff, we were all kicked out by security. So yeah, there's definitely an air of change in the industry. And then of course, you said you were at Amazon. Were you there long before Riot came a calling? Was that like further down the line, or were you at Amazon for a couple of months? Or
I wasn't at Amazon very long.
okay,
I'm super happy that they did hire me though. I really loved the project that I worked on.
right,
But it got canceled shortly after I started working there. So maybe like 3 to 4 months into working there.
oh, wow,
So that really hurt to see a project that I actually really enjoyed playing.
right,
And I didn't really even get to work on it for very long. So that
yeah,
was 3 to 4 months in, and then I stayed at Amazon working remotely on some of their other projects
right,
up until the 10th or 11th month mark. And then before I left Amazon, a recruiter actually from Riot reached out to me, and
right.
I went through the interview process at Riot pretty quickly. So I was able to transition right into Riot right after I was laid off of Amazon.
Wow, yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't say luck really, but time and opportunity. I've just kind of came along at the right time. So I mean, the decision to go to Riot, was that something that you were like super happy about, or were you kind of like, was Riot something that was always on your radar? Was it something you always wanted to do? Was go and work there?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been playing League of Legends since 2010, so a year after it came out. I'm
Wow, OG.
super big MOBA fan. I play all the MOBAs, and I always wanted to work at Riot. I applied there when I was trying to leave Volition before Amazon picked me up. Um,
Right.
and I wasn't quite ready for Riot after Volition, but after Amazon, I had a better portfolio to get in.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, I mean, I'm the same. I've never really been a huge League fan. I mean, I think it has the same aesthetic and art style I love about Blizzard. But then, when it comes to MOBAs, I've been more Dota 2. Like I've been on that side of the fence for a
Yeah,
long time. Yeah, I'm an
love
OG.
Dota.
Well, I was an OG Warcraft player back in the day. Like, and Warcraft 3 for me was like one of like my childhood games. And then when somebody had told me they would basically, like somebody on Steam had modded parts of Warcraft 3 into was Defender of the Ancient back then. And then it became this whole thing. So, and now obviously, like the international has just happened in LA, like it's just been happening. So, yeah, like Dota's spawned into this new life, and now Valve own all the rights, and which is crazy to think now because that game was spawned out of a Blizzard property, and now Valve are like, insanely rich because of it, because it's like obviously like one of their their best selling games. Obviously, it's free, but the microtransactions they make, the money they make off that is one of their other huge revenue streams. Not that they need the money because they
Yeah,
own Steam. Because
yeah.
Steam, I mean, like Steam basically has lined Gabe's pockets forever. So, yeah, they don't need to make Half Life 3, guys. It's never going to happen. So
It's similar to the auto chess mod that got put in the Dota, and then now auto chess is now
I think,
a new
yeah,
genre.
I've never really dived into auto chess and seen what
Me
it's all about.
neither.
But then people keep telling me, like, because I've got an iPad Pro, they're like, oh, one of the Dota games is on the iPad. You should really. So I downloaded it, but I've never played it. But yeah. So anyway, so back to Riot. So you were going to Riot. This was like great, fantastic, going to love this job. And then you came from. So where were you originally based before you moved to LA? Were you out on the East Coast?
Yeah, well, I'm originally from the Detroit area, Detroit, Michigan, and Volition was a few hours outside of Chicago in Illinois, and then so I was there for 2.5 years, and then Amazon hired me, and I moved to Irvine. So Amazon was right down the street from Blizzard, and
Okay.
so I was there for a year, and now I'm in gigantic hectic LA.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's going to be a Definitely a scenery change from coming from Chicago and then Detroit and stuff like that. Although the only experience I have, I think, in Detroit is watching 8 Mile. So, like,
Oh yeah, everyone says
like,
Eminem.
yeah, Eminem, and you're like, oh, Detroit, yeah, I know the rapper that came from there like 15, 20 years ago, and you're like, all right, cool, yeah, yeah. Anything
Yeah,
else? No, I ever visited the place. Um, so then you moved across to LA, so you're in there. How long have you been at Riot now? I think just over a year, right?
yeah. I'm going on a year and a half now, so if it's time is just flying by.
I can imagine, yeah. And you are predominantly, I don't know if it's unannounced or what, but you're predominantly working on League, or is it something else that you're working on, or?
No, I'm not working on League. I'm working on one of the R&D projects, so I'm
Okay,
super
right,
excited about that. I wish I could
awesome.
talk about it.
But you can, of course, yes, we know that the code of ethics that is a games artist's career. So yeah, it's the same.
Yeah,
When you go to a lot of events and a lot of like industry workshops around the world, and you always catch up with people, and you're like, "Oh, what are you working on?" And they're like I tell you, and like, "Oh, great, what have you worked on that shipped?" Like, because yeah, everybody's when you ever catch up with them, they're always like halfway through a project, so they can never really talk about it. Or people who talk about it, you can't then repeat stuff outside the conversation. So it's always like, "Oh, I know this person's working on this thing," and then you'll hear it mentioned, and you're like, I can't say anything about it. So yeah, it's always the inner circle of trust, as we call it, and there's always a thing where you can let fly a couple of secrets. But yeah, I'd imagine Riot, it's the same as Blizzard, will be super secretive about all the things they're working on. So, but yeah, no, I know Riot. I think the last time I saw them in the news had. Or, well, they had announced, or they'd let slip, or somebody had let slip that they were working on a fighting game. I think based
yeah,
around yeah
yeah.
stuff that
During Evo, they
yeah.
I heard that too.
Yeah.
Uh,
I have also heard this rumor that has also been speculated on the internet. Yes, of
yes,
course.
I have
Yes, yes.
heard.
I agree. Yes. Okay. Yeah, man. So, no, but like it's the same with a lot of projects, and then of course, like the guys in Blizzard who work and stuff, they work and stuff for years and years without ever talking about stuff. So it's always hard, I think, for them, especially when I interviewed Mark Burnett last year.
Oh
He had
yeah,
talked about working on Titan, and then for years he couldn't talk about that, and then eventually it was like, oh god, and then he came off that, and then turned it in Overwatch, and he left it, and then he worked on Heroes of the Storm, which he could talk about obviously and put stuff out that he'd worked on, but yeah, for years and years the guys I knew who worked on Titan, and they could never
oh
announce anything.
yeah,
Yeah,
7 years or something like I heard.
yeah,
I've always been a
yes,
little envious of, people who get to work on MOBAs or like even League of Legends. Content is constantly coming out in
yeah,
intervals, and people can
yeah,
like show off their art that they've been working on periodically. Whereas you're working on like a long project, like a single player game or anything, and you just have
yeah.
to keep quiet about it for years.
Yeah, I could imagine. It's going to be
Yeah.
really difficult because I mean, it's the same. Even for the short stint I was at Axis in Glasgow, we were talking about it earlier. The stuff I was working on again. I was coming home every day, and people were like, "Oh, cool. What'd you do today?" And you're like, "Oh, I can't talk about it,"
Yeah.
because, like,
Yep.
yeah, like I mean, at the time, obviously, I was just saying, we were working in League, we were working we were working on the trailer. But yeah, every time you were seeing that awesome stuff, then you were coming home and be like, yeah, we're working on something that's pretty awesome. But and then eventually the trailer comes out, and you're like, oh, cool, I was there when they worked on this. But yeah, it's always, I think, difficult. And then of course, with R&D stuff, it's always these things that it might come out, it might not, because obviously Amazon, you're saying the game got cancelled, so you're always kind of like you said, like, oh great, oh shit, it got cancelled. So yeah, I think you were kind of lucky at the start of your career where agents shipped, so at least you had worked on something that had shipped, it was out there, people could see it, you could then obviously release art from it.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
the good thing about Breakaway at Amazon was we did release it in alpha, so I was able to, post my art. It's always like a gray area when a game gets canceled, but it was never released to the public. It's always like a gray area. Am I allowed to show what I worked on? Do I say that it was a canceled project?
yeah, yeah. It's a very difficult thing, I think, for most artists, because you always want to be like, yeah, I'm working on something, and yeah, I'm learning these tools, and something's coming. I really really want to show you, but then you're always held back by NDAs and stuff that can't be shown, which kind of sucks, because then again, you're making all this effort to put these great things on the screen, and then sometimes they'll get shown, sometimes they won't. I think that's the only thing I found when I talked to some artists who worked at Axis, was that it's great to work there, but then sometimes because you're working for a third party client like Riot or somebody else, there is always a more grey area where people will be like, we don't want you to show the stuff you've done. We don't want that to, people to say, oh, I worked on this thing at a third party studio. We would rather, the guys at Riot were posting stuff. Because I think even it was one of the few things where, a lot of the projects that Axis worked on that summer was they didn't get to post, or the artists didn't get to claim credit for stuff they'd done because it was for other companies, it was for third parties. So that's probably even more secretive than most
Oh,
big
yeah.
companies.
Yeah,
Yeah,
being like a client or a vendor. Yeah, I feel like you have to be even more quiet about what you're working on.
basically, yeah. I mean, sometimes you'll get lucky, and I think recently, again, I've seen one of the guys I know there who was working on they done the Gears 5 trailer. They were quite happy being like, yeah, you can post stuff, you can say you worked on this, and then they got to be like, cool, and they actually got to put something in their portfolio. But then I know multiple projects they have worked on for huge clients, and then they've been like, no, you can't post anything. We don't want
Aw,
any publicity. So
that's
yeah,
so hard.
I know it's definitely like a hit or miss, and it really sucks sometimes. But then I think, especially like you said with the vendor guys, you get the opportunity to work on really great things, but then the flip side of that, sometimes you won't get to post your stuff after the project because it is owned by another company or a third party. So yeah, it's a hit or miss. Like I think I even know like when they worked on the Mecha trailer for Blizzard, they didn't want stuff for that to come out, like artist wise. But then I think recently when they done the Heroes of the Storm trailer, we were just talking about like they got some of the guys got to post stuff they'd worked on for that. So it is definitely hit or miss. So, but then of course you've been there a year now at Riot, but then again you're in the same boat because the thing you're working on hasn't really officially been revealed. So you're still in limbo with the stuff you can post, the stuff you can't post. So are you doing personal stuff alongside your Riot stuff as well to keep?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know if I'll ever stop doing personal work. I've learned to keep quiet about what I'm working on because my first job, Agents of Mayhem, was a single player game. I had to be quiet about it for 2.5 years, so that taught me to be good about keeping my mouth shut. So I'm pretty good
yeah,
about it. But now, I hit a point where I'm like, I kind of need something to fill that void. I'm not getting the satisfaction of being able to talk or show what I'm working on. So
yeah,
kind of have to fill that void with personal work. I try to do like mentorships or teaching online classes.
yeah.
So there's
Because
a lot of
I
things
think
I try to do.
yeah, because I got to say I think the last thing I saw from you was the Nordic axe. You posted the
Yeah.
kind of the weapon sculpt you done. Yeah,
Yeah, I've been really enjoying sculpting in my free time. I make game art all day at work. I'm doing UVs. I'm just like world building. And when I get home, like I'm not getting that ZBrush itch out. I wanna sculpt. And
right.
I post my sculpts sometimes, and some people are like, "Oh, cool, make it game res, texture it." And sometimes I'm like, I just want to sculpt it and like
Yeah,
render it really really awesome and show it off. So,
I think there's definitely parts of the process in 3D that people like more than others. Like I think we can all universally agree that UVing is probably one of the most boring things that
oh,
you will do. It's
retopo.
oh god,
Oh,
yeah. That I haven't even crossed that bridge yet. That is like the next thing I'm probably gonna have to learn. But oh my god, it just looks like the most monotonous thing on the planet. But yeah, I think it's just because the sculpting is the most creative part. It's the most thing where you throw yourself into it, and it's the most energy you give to that process. But then after that, like the stuff comes where you have to make it game ready, you have to texture it. But then yeah, I think there's some points where you get to where you sculpt something, you're like, no, I'm happy like where this is sitting. I like this as it sits. I don't want to mess with it anymore. And I think when do you kind of make that decision when you sculpt something and you want to just leave it as is? Do you get to a point where you're like sculpting? And I know it's hard to really like put that into words. Really, like how do you know when it's enough? But like, is there a point you get to where you're like, that's done, that's enough for me. I can then move on.
I love that question because you're asking it to the biggest noodler ever. I could keep sculpting on something and it'll never be done.
Yeah,
I look at my axe or any of the rocks I've made, anything I've sculpted, I'm like, oh, I wish I could keep sculpting on that, or I wish I
yeah,
fixed that little area. But you have to like, I've learned to zoom out and look at the big picture because a
yeah,
lot of times I zoom really far in and I'm sculpting I'm sculpting the smallest cracks that you will never see
Yeah,
unless I give you like an 8K render.
yeah, yeah. No, definitely. I think even with the axe, you can see like the detail is just, for the handle to the wood to the top kind of headpiece that's it's put across. But yeah, there's so much within there, and then that obviously is unusual because typically, unless it's a hero asset, a lot of that stuff you would never push that stuff that far, because then trying to bring that back into game ready stuff would be harder, because then you're pushing more detail. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a
yeah,
lot of that
yeah,
stuff's not even going to come through in the bake. So if
yeah,
I were to have done the axe for work, for instance, I would not have put this much detail into it. But since I
yeah,
knew it was just going to be a sculpt, and I
yeah,
also wanted to use it to learn keyshot and how to
mhm,
make materials in there, I put a lot of detail into it for
yeah.
that reason.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, that came shortly after, I think, the pylon, which is the kind of same thing, but it was almost like it was so beautiful in its simplicity. I think it was enough where I think, especially with Keyshot, because I've never really used Keyshot a lot, but then I think I've maybe used it once. I really need to be using it more. But with that piece you had done, was there an element of overpaint in that as well, or was that all just done like the pylon? Was that just through Keyshot and materials you had got that final effect?
Oh, that was 100% keyshot. Other than the little god ray at the top, I photoshopped that in the little light
All right.
ray. But
Yeah.
other than that, I kind of wanted to make a. There's a lot of keyshot materials out there that people share or sell, and they're mostly for characters because you see a lot of character artists rendering in keyshot or weapon artists.
Mhm.
But you don't see a lot of like sculpty, like environment artists doing stuff. So I
Yeah.
wanted to make materials that, kind of like fit environment stuff and organic stuff. So I think my next endeavor is I'm gonna make like a tree or some wood and
Mhm.
see how that looks in Keyshot.
Oh, cool, cool. Yeah, and I noticed it was based on a concept by Jose Vega,
Oh
who's the
yeah, I love his
yeah,
art.
yeah, he's so good. I mean, like, it was funny because I actually got to speak to a couple of the guys because I'd done it was a random environment. It was like a fantasy environment. I think I'd done at university. It was really old. But a couple of the guys can be like, "Hey man, we're working on something. We're looking for environment artists. Do you want to apply?" I was like, "Oh hell yeah!" But like, and that it never. Obviously, I'm still here, so it never came to fruition. But a lot of the guys over there are like super talented, powerhouse, and Jose, yeah, his stuff from Castlevania is like, oh my god, it gives me life. It's just
Oh,
so beautiful. So
so it is. I love looking at his new stuff. I actually
yeah,
find a lot of his. I found this concept on his Deviant art. It was so old.
nice.
I
But
love
then
that.
again, still really good. So yeah, no, he's definitely he's a master. I think the atmosphere he builds on a lot of his stuff, it's just crazy good. But yeah, so you've been doing, you're working at Riot, you're doing this R&D stuff. You were saying you're teaching. So is that through an academy, or are you doing, is it Patreon or anything that kind of similarity to that kind of stuff? Or
Well, right now I'm working on some tutorials. Uh, I've been doing some tiling sculpts. Some people asked about how I do my tiling sculpts in ZBrush, or I've had a few people ask me about SpeedTree because not many people do stylized stuff in SpeedTree.
okay.
So I did a lot of the foliage on Agents of Mayhem using SpeedTree, and it's all stylized. So I
Mhm.
do that, and I was doing mentorships at a university for a year, and that was that was pretty helpful for me. I felt like even I grew from doing that mentorship, just giving kids feedback and
Yeah,
watching
because
them grow.
when you've got to teach or give feedback, it does then reintegrate the basics back into your brain of the things you learned, and then when you teach them, it almost cements them more in what you're doing. So yeah, I think teaching is definitely one of the, maybe further down the line for more advanced artists like
Yeah.
yourself. But then it does almost, like you say, base and build on your skills, because you're having to regurgitate that information you've already learned back into a form that people can understand it. So yeah, that probably is a really rewarding. I mean, I done for the very little teaching I done, and I'm talking like I was teaching people like how to open Maya and how to open ZBrush, and
Oh.
like the very basic stuff. Like, this
Yeah.
is a cube, this is a square, this is how you bevel something. But I enjoyed that process. I really found that rewarding, like teaching other people or passing on, and watching them be like, "Oh, cool! I just built this. Look," and then you're like, "Oh, cool! That's really awesome." But like them getting excited about it then makes you excited about it. So I think yeah, it's probably one of the best things I think artists can eventually do is teach, because then it is. I think it's just for me because I like making other people happy, so I like
Yeah,
seeing them get excited about the tools that I'm teaching them, and if I'm part of that process, then it's a great honor for me. So I'm
I
assuming it would have been
feel
the same for you guys. Yeah,
yeah, I feel the same way. I get a lot of gratification out of teaching, and especially because I didn't really learn a lot of 3D in school. It's kind of cool seeing game art schools and how they're set up, and I feel like there's a lot of students who go to game art schools, they have to do characters, environments, concepts, you know.
right.
And,
Yeah,
and every time I do these mentorships or I'm teaching kids, I'm always asking them, where do you want to work? What kind of art inspires you? Do you like environments? Do you like 3D? Do you like 2D? And you have to really break it down and find out what they're strong at and what they like doing. And
yeah.
I feel like a lot of game art schools, aren't telling students they need to pick a focus. And a lot of students end
100%.
up
Yeah.
coming out of school being very generalist type portfolios.
I could not agree with you more. That is exactly the experience. I just graduated like 12 months ago, probably to the day. It was back in July last year I graduated, and yeah, they will train people specifically, usually to be generalists. I mean, the one thing I would say that was a saving grace in my fourth year was that we got to pick a specialization for our last end project, and it was like you could make it whatever you want. Unfortunately, I picked 2D concept because I was like, I really want to do this, but then that ended up just kind of blowing back in my face because I'd done a 3D environment, a really good 3D environment the previous year, and kind of got an A for it, and people were like really impressed with my stuff. But then I was like, no, but I really want to do 2D environment. That's what I left my job to do. I really want to do that, and then it just ended up being shit. But
Oh,
like,
I get that. I wish I
yeah,
could do 2D.
yeah. Well, I mean, like the original kind of when I left my job years ago, I left because I got a lot of when I used to collect video games. I got a lot of art books with the games, and then I would kind of, I think the first major one I got was Skyrim, and I was like, yeah, like
Choice.
flicking through, yes, but flicking through the book, I was like, oh my god, I never knew people actually got to make art and do this as a job. And then I think I watched the God of War 3 making of documentary, coupled with the Halo 3 one as well. I was like, oh cool, this could be a job. This could be something I could do. So that's when I left my job. But then I think the last 5 years for me, I've just been like me just wandering through a fog because I didn't at the time when I left my job in 2012. There was not a lot of information online. Like ArtStation wasn't even a thing. CGMA was like just getting off the ground. There was practically nothing there for people to learn. And like you said, it was maybe just YouTube and a couple other things. But then I think the specialization part of me was really hard because there was so much to learn. I kept kind of jumping from one thing to the other, and never really settled with something. Mostly because I was afraid if I picked the wrong thing and got really good at that, I'd get a job where it wasn't really relevant. But
Oh
now,
yeah.
obviously, years later, I'm learning that everybody has their place. If you're good at something and you're really good at one particular thing, you'll get work anywhere because people are always looking for talented people in any field. It doesn't matter what you work in. So I think now the focus, like I said to you, is that I'm doing 3D specifically. I'm doing ZBrush. Hopefully, do characters full time. But yeah, I think it's just the element of sticking with something and sticking something for a long time, which can be hard for us millennials because
Yeah.
like yeah, trying to focus for a year, 2 years, or a couple of months even on one particular field is hard. So here's a question I'm going to pose to you:
Sure.
is that how do you feel? Well, it's kind of loaded, but how do you feel about art schools in general?
Oh.
Because you'll have a biased obvious opinion because you really haven't went through the traditional system, but then you've probably seen both sides of it now you're teaching. So how do you feel about typical schools and how do you feel they work into the industry now?
uh I feel like I think a lot of art schools are really good, especially if you want to learn the foundational stuff. I think SCAD is a really good school, or any of like those fine art schools are really good if you want to be really good at painting and learn stuff like that. It's a tricky thing for me though, because I'm not super familiar with the game art schools like Nomon or DigiPen, any of the big game art schools. So not super familiar with them, but from what I know, I just know that a lot of students aren't picking their focus. But what is nice is I do see a lot of students getting jobs right outside of Nomon, and the student art. Anytime they post that art, I'm just blown away. Even I'm just like, I don't think I could do that. So it's incredible what some of the students are doing and what they're learning. But a lot of game art schools, I think, are doing a disservice to students and not really guiding them in the right direction. Uh, One of my like worries is that a lot of teachers haven't actually worked in the industry, but did go through a game art school or they know 3D, so they're able to teach it, but they don't know how it actually works in the industry and how important it is to actually like pick a focus and not be all over the place and like keeping up with the new tech too. I would hope that the teachers are teaching substance painter and not teaching hey, this is we're gonna
Mudbox.
yeah, Mudbox. We're gonna texture this just in Photoshop. Use Dedo.
Yeah.
No hate on Dedo. I
Yeah.
just don't see many people using it anymore.
No, of course. Yeah. I think it's always these things where you try to give advice online, and sometimes you're always afraid about offending people. But like, I think if the tool is relevant in the industry, then you need to be like, people obviously are. There's this whole resurgence of Blender, right? So this whole explosion that's
Oh
been
yeah,
happening recently about, and I think mostly because people are using it for industry stuff for 3D, but then Blender I think had the explosion because a lot of people were using it for concept. So that's where the explosion happened, but not particularly in making environment art. But then it is a valid tool. I totally understand that like the features that have now came out because obviously it's got popular again and they've been back making stuff for it. It is valid in a lot of respects, and yes, you can sculpt in it, but then when you walk into a studio, their tool sets and pipelines are set up for specific programs, mostly a mix of Maya, Max, and ZBrush. So you kind of need your focus to be there because you want to integrate into a studio as seamlessly as possible. You don't want to really be causing them too much discourse. So, where it's good to have a varied selection of programs to use, like you said again with focus, you need to have a various skill set that will be attractive to an employer. So you'll be like, yeah, man, I can use Maya, I can use Photoshop, I can use ZBrush. Like between those three programs, most people will be like, cool, you're
yeah,
hired.
yeah.
Yeah.
But those are just that's just a small handful. I
Oh yeah.
get a little worried seeing some students learning Modo or Fusion or just messing around with these kind of programs. But
Yeah.
if they want to work AAA, a lot of students are like, my dream job's Blizzard or Bethesda,
Mhm.
wherever. Those studios are using Max and Maya, and
Yeah.
on top of that, you're learning Substance Painter, Substance Designer, I don't know,
Mhm.
Speed Tree, X Normal. There's so many
A lot.
programs you have to know as a 3D artist.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing that appealed to me when I was thinking about doing characters because the scope of programs to use is a little shorter
A
than
little bit. Yeah.
compared to environment stuff where it's like the sky is almost the limit with stuff you can use there because there's so much now. Especially like I even see people. One of my friends, or well, guy I interviewed Moses Saint Fleur.
Oh yeah.
Originally, yeah, so Moses, he now does like all his retopo and ZBrush. Like he just doesn't even give a shit about doing, I think he says mostly if he's doing studio stuff, but a lot of the stuff he does now for personal work is like he will just fire something in ZBrush and click the retopo and be like, cool, done, and then back out. Because like the ZBrush retopo is like so powerful.
It's gotten a lot better. I love asking artists like what they use to retopo or what they use to bake. I haven't met
Yeah.
anyone who has the same set of like programs to do their whole workflow
Oh
as I
yeah.
do. Everyone has their own workflow.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's just a way where you find like the program you're most comfortable with or something that you find was the most relevant to what you're doing. And I didn't even thought about as using ZBrush for Retopo because I know you could do it with characters, but like yeah, like 100%. Even going through his course he just recently released, like a lot of his stuff was just getting fired um into ZBrush to get retopoed and then fired back out into Maya or Max. But then it makes sense, right? Because if you can fire an asset that's kind of ready into ZBrush and retopo and back out, then it's like you said, the retopo phase is something that will typically eat a lot of your time. And like yeah, I think I even saw recently about I'm trying to remember the fucking name of it now. Sculpting, texturing. Oh shit! you can sculpt and texture in it, and oh my god, this is
It's
going to sound
not
so horrible.
3D coat, huh?
That's the one. It's called 3D coat.
That's where
Yeah.
I retopo in.
See, because then people were talking about, like, I think it was only like last week, something was like, have you seen the Rotopo tools in 3D coat? And I hadn't even looked at them, but then people were telling me that they're just as powerful as ZBrush retopos, but then I haven't used it, so, but then you have, right? So do you feel that it's on par with some of the stuff in ZBrush, or?
Oh, I don't do any of my retopo in ZBrush. You know, if I'm really lazy, I'll just decimate and call it a day. If it's like a rock, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
retopo a rock. But
Yeah.
or 3D Coat has an option called Autopo. It's just an auto retopo option. But if you want to hand retopo in there, super nice. But if you're a Maya user, you might as well just stick to, I think it's called Quad Draw. I'm not super
Yeah.
familiar because I'm a Max user.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Which is interesting as well, because I've seen a lot of older school artists using, I say old school, but people who maybe been in the industry
Yeah.
a bit longer typically would use Max. But the new generation I've seen have always been using Maya. Have you found like one or the other, or or did you just learn in Max and that's how you've just came through, or?
You know what? When I was in school, I had this dream of working at 343 because I really liked Halo and I watched that Halo documentary you were
Well, did
mentioning
you?
earlier, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what are they using? You know, I always do my research, and they were using Max, so that's why I picked that up. And
Right.
Aramis 3D, that guy on YouTube, he taught a lot of Max videos, and the hard
Right.
surface tools are really awesome in there, which is funny because I'm not a hard surface artist anymore, but
Yeah.
I still really love Max. And
Yeah.
everyone I work with at Riot uses Maya, so I'm like the black sheep using Max. But I've noticed that most studios, most people on the West Coast, where I am now, they're using Maya, and I just made the correlation that maybe the schools out here are just teaching Maya, and that's how it ended up that way. Whereas I
I
see a
think there's
lot
a,
of Max users on the other side of the country.
Yeah, I think because the West Coast maybe has been linked more to animation than the East Coast stuff. They're purely games. I think the West Coast guys took a lot of cues from a lot of animation studios at the time were using 3D stuff, and then probably initially, I think even Pixar, before they built their own stuff, their own tools, were initially using Maya. So I think a lot of the initial 3D guys from that area would have probably taught or learned or done stuff in Maya, and then it's just trickled down through other studios or other schools. So, but then I think the thing that I never realized until recently, and I know students will never really understand, is that whether it's Max, Maya, ZBrush, whatever, the fundamental things that you will learn in those programs will be able to be carried to anything else.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah, because people are thinking, oh, if I learn Modo or I learn Blender or I learn whatever, I can't then use the other program that comes out next week. I'm like, no, but if you know how to, bevel and, boolean and retopo, like those things are universal through all 3D programs.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah. It's just
yeah,
a tool. You can do the same thing in any program. I see that a lot with students. You know, they see a really cool piece of art and they're like, oh, they made that in Modo? I have to learn Modo. And
yeah,
or Cinema 4D, I see a lot of that too. And, you know, you can
yeah,
do
yeah,
the same thing in Max, Maya. They're all the same. It's just a tool. And what matters is just like the result you get out of that tool, you know?
yeah. 100%. Like even people I know who will be like, oh, you don't let any learn Photoshop anymore. You can just learn like Paintbrush Sai or
Yeah,
or,
correct.
or Sketchbook or whatever. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Like you totally can, but then you then have to integrate those tools and those workflows into another studio. So it's good to
Yeah.
learn that Photoshop as a basis. And if you want to learn something in your spare time, then that's totally cool. But then, like you say, if you want to learn and work in industry, then you need to make sure that you're at least familiar with those base programs before you do anything outside of that, because then, like people I know will, concept guys picked up Modo, I think, at the time because it was a lot easier to use in other programs, and then I think they've even went to Blender now because like grease pencils are things, so people will literally draw things in Blender, and it'll turn into 3D. So again, it's less time before making a concept into a final piece. So a lot of these things are just picked because of the quickness of them. So it's not always because they're the most efficient or they're the ones that industry will be using. But then I think because a lot of people early on were getting really good effects in Blender for their concepts really quickly, that's why everybody took to it so quickly.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I feel like whatever is going to give you the quickest result, like working smarter, not harder. It's
Yeah.
never been more true than in the game industry. So
So what's the? I mean, that'd be quite interesting to work at that as well because that's kind of been a hot point of topic conversation just now. But what's your kind of like work-life balance at Riot like? I mean, probably I'm assuming quite decent because we just talked about how you're working from home today before you go into the office, so they're quite flexible with your kind of coming and going. But do you feel like you've got a good balance between your work and your outside life?
oh, absolutely. I have not had this good of work-life balance at my last few studios, so it's really awesome. I'm not crunching. They trust everyone enough to get their work done when they say they're going to get it done and hit their deadlines. So they don't ask you to crunch. They don't want you to crunch. So if you want to work from home, do it. If you get your work done, come to the office. Some days I'm there all day, and I just like get all my work done, and then the next day I'm not doing as much work, or I'm playing
Yeah,
a game of League or taking a long lunch. But
yeah,
that's the beauty of a studio that has like an
yeah,
open
yeah,
work life. You can go into work
yeah.
whenever you want.
Yeah, they have a faith in you that they've hired you for a reason. They understand you know what you're doing. You're not going to slack off or anything. So yeah, I mean, and people listen to this. I know sometimes will be like, oh, Riot's like a playground and they have Nerf wars and whatever. But
We do.
yeah, brilliant. But these places have an understanding that yeah, there is this balance of you get a freedom, but then that comes at a cost where you need to make sure that your work is done. You are finishing projects when your ADs are coming to you or your leads are coming to you. You need to make sure that you're like, here's my work, it's done at a good standard. It's a thing where I think people only see. I think especially I was definitely part of this whole thing where initially when I looked at a lot of the making of stuffs and they were obviously doing a lot of stuff for camera where like you say the Nerf Wars or guys going out and doing these amazing nights out and stuff like that. But then yeah, that was all coming at the cost of crunch or people doing a lot of work. So it definitely is. When I say balance, as much playtime as you'll have, there'll also be a lot of times like you said, you're there all day working, finishing off something for a deadline. So yeah,
I actually really respect Riot in that the culture, sometimes I go into work and I feel like I'm hanging out with all my friends. All my coworkers are so awesome. And but at the same time I get to work on really cool art with them. So,
yeah,
having a culture, they feed us at Riot. They want us to play games, like it's fun at Riot, and it kind of makes me feel inspired to do good work there, because they kind of have this like environment where they trust me and they respect me and I get my work done and we're all friends. It's fun, but we're also making an awesome thing together at the same time. So I really love it. I can't even think of another place that I'd want to work at, honestly, since I started at Riot.
Well, that's good, man. I mean, like, I mean, definitely. I mean, I don't really want to go in it because it's your place to work, but then there has been things where people have talked about Riot, negatively over the last maybe 12 months. There's been things that have happened. They had the walkout and stuff. So,
Yeah.
it's good to hear that at least you, on a sense, are enjoying where you are. Because yeah, I think a lot of people have this vision that anybody who works at Riot and is female will automatically have a really bad time. But I think, like you said, there is for you definitely more positives than negatives there. Like you are enjoying what you're doing, you are enjoying the work, you are enjoying the people you work with.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, the thing about all the stuff that's going on with Riot, I feel like at any studio, any big studio, Riot is a few thousand people.
yeah,
It's huge, and it's
mhm,
just like a small campus. There's a bunch of buildings, and the thing at any big studio is every team's going to have its own culture, its own type of balance. Every team that I've been on so far, Amazon, Volition, even Riot, been totally different groups of people. And that's because they hire based on the culture they want that team to have. And I'm super fortunate to be on a team at Riot that is it just fits my personality and like the work I do. So I got really fortunate there. So but
yeah,
but it's like a honeypot, there's there's lots of cultures happening at Riot. So
Yeah, definitely. I think it's always going to be that, no matter where you work, there will always be some part of it that won't be running as efficiently as it can. I think even, when they done a kind of a roundtable talk with a lot of the creative leads at different studios, there was like Riot, there was the guys from Bungie, a couple other studios. Bungie were saying that they were totally culpable, that people were obviously like, Destiny's such an awesome game, it must be really awesome to work at Bungie, but then I listened to Jason Schreier's Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, and it was all about like he done a whole topic on like how they built the first Destiny game, and there was so much discourse in that studio. There was so many falling outs and people leaving and people getting fired and people not agreeing and having to crunch all the time. So yeah, there's always a darker part behind any studio that makes video games because it is such a personal journey and there's so much of yourself goes into what you make. So I think, yeah, there is definitely negative parts and we definitely should be addressing those because, of course, everybody should be taken seriously if they have a grievance, but at the same time, it isn't always an overall reflection of the entire company. Because I mean, people have talked about the things that have happened at Riot, but I think the initial article that came out was about specifically their Dublin studio across here in Europe,
yeah.
so which is a different animal to the LA studio. So I mean, yeah, there's definitely good and bad points, but at least it's good to hear that as a female worker in the games industry, it is an mostly positive experience for you in the studio.
Yeah. My time in California as a whole, even at Amazon, has been awesome so far. And I would probably stay in California forever. The people out here are really easygoing and chill.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. No, it seems like a lovely place. I mean, I know you were talking about that. I'm doing stuff with Raf just now, but Raf's obviously out in Santa Monica. He's in the studio there.
Yeah.
And then I've been told as well they have a really good work culture. They have a really good studio over there. And then, of course, Blizzard's down the road from you. So, again, they have a really good culture there, apparently. They've got a really decent half-working work staff. So, yeah, I think California has definitely got a lot of positives when it comes to technology and industry leading stuff. So if you're wanting to be kind of at the center of what's happening for a lot of different stuff, then yeah, California is probably the place to be. Either that or probably I would say maybe Montreal, Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
All the places in Canada, they have big
That's a
studios
big
over there as
one.
well. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. The only thing that sucks about California is the cost of living out here is
Oh yeah,
really high, especially I come from the Midwest, so
oh
like
yeah.
my rent over there paying like 350 for an apartment, and I come out here I'm paying like 3 grand for an apartment.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, there was one of my friends, Dennis Glaske. Like he works now at Ravensoft, so he's working on the Call of Duty franchise. But he originally was out there, I think, in California working on some Battlefield stuff, and then I think he worked for Visceral for a while. He was doing some stuff on the cancelled Star Wars game that got made,
Oh yeah.
1313. But then he was saying, yeah, the cost of living in LA, and then he's back out in oh God, I think it's Michigan. I think he's in now.
Oh,
Um,
it's I think it's Wisconsin.
Yeah, something
Similar,
like that.
same thing.
Yeah, but then yeah, like he was saying, like he's still getting the same kind of wage he had at California, but then in a place where he doesn't have to spend that much money to live, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, that's
He could
yeah.
buy
But
a giant house if he wanted
um,
to.
he has a giant house, Lydia. He has a giant house.
Yeah, that's the
But then that,
one thing that I
yeah, but that's I mean, like even Raf's talked about it at one point, was talking about how like there's always rumors about the Call of Duty guys getting these crazy bonuses, and they're true, but like it is one of the, I think, the few exceptions in the industry where the guys get like really well compensated for the work they do in Call of Duty. But then it's like such a massive franchise, right? It makes so much money.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Activision's doing super well with Call of Duty. The new one that's coming out looks incredible.
what's the new Modern Warfare? Well, the version of their Modern Warfare, right? I think it's the new modern military shooter thing. I think they're doing.
Yeah, and this weekend was like a free 2v2 weekend, so everyone was
Oh,
playing this past weekend.
okay. Yeah. The last one I played was Black Ops 4.
Oh,
I
me
bought that.
too.
Yeah, bought that on launch day. I've been playing that on and off, but then I never really got the problem. I think I've found anyway with most um, PC gaming the last couple of years because I've moved to PC now, is that I really just need a good group of people to play a game with. Like I would play anything on the PC as long as I had people to play it with because a lot of these games are really cool, but then I've just not got the like a lot of my friends are console players, right? So they don't have there's no crossplay in PC yet. I mean,
Yeah.
it's coming in waves, but like at this point, most things are on consoles. So when I try to get a group of people together to have a game, I'm like, oh, I don't have an Xbox or a PlayStation. I have a PC.
Oh,
So
I'm totally in the same boat. I only PC game because I just can't aim with a joystick very well.
oh
Like,
shit, yeah. I couldn't. Going back from mouse and keyboard to joystick again is like so weird. Unless I'm playing, like a third person game
oh
or
yeah,
something
like
like
God
that.
of War
Yeah,
or something. Yeah.
yeah. But no, the first person stuff is all. I think my current plays are it's a mix between Dota, Overwatch, and Rainbow Six Siege. That's like my three kind of go
Ooh,
tos. Siege
nice.
more than anything because Siege is awesome. I really love Siege. I've got a couple of guys I know work at the Ubisoft studio, and it's a really great game. But like most online shooters, the toxic community is like ridiculous. I just done a whole episode on this recently on the podcast about how I'm trying to cut myself away from more of that stuff because you just get like the worst type of people in those games
Oh,
sometimes. And
it's always the shooting games too.
yeah,
I played Rainbow Six Siege and Call of Duty and Counter Strike are pretty
yeah.
bad, especially when I'm talking on comms.
Oh
Like,
God,
yeah, I was playing last night, and even I was getting destroyed by some
yeah.
teams. But
But it's terrible, man. Because like I mean, even recently, I know one of my friends. She streams online. She streams Siege specifically. She just
oh
streams
no,
Siege. Yeah, and
we're
when she's on
destroyed.
comms, oh my god, like don't even she's like, don't even get me started on being a woman in this game. Like it is absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's all the stupid typical comments like, oh, go back to the kitchen and everything. She's like, fuck off, dude. Like I can and the funny thing is she's so good at it because she's working for an esports team and then she'll be like she'll be getting like 5 and 6 kills around and then they're like, oh fucking, and she's like, yeah, you go beautiful girl, ha. So
Yeah, and they think
um
you're cheating, or a lot of times
yeah.
people think I'm using a voice changer.
Oh yeah, so you'll sound like a girl. So oh god,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, they don't think I'm actually a girl, or I sound like a little boy, which is fine. I'll roll with that.
yeah. It's just that. Oh god, yeah. Well, let's not even talk about the game this year. Let's just talk about playing games as a girl. Like yeah, that's just a whole other can of worms. So
It's
yeah.
that's a big one. I play so many games too. Even like Dota, there's a lot of people toxic on the mic. So
Oh my god, Dota's like I've been playing Dota now since 2012, 13,
yeah,
and
same.
oh my god, man! Like some of the people on that are just like and it irks me more because there'll sometimes you'll do really well the last couple of games, then you'll play that one game where like you're just terrible, and it's mostly usually typically because your teammate or your team isn't working, as a whole. So whatever you're trying to set up isn't working because you're not getting the support you need. So then if you do really shit, they start off like, oh, you're terrible. Like I love to play Ricky sometimes, and Ricky thrives on like someone who can like tank and really take people down, and you jump in last minute for the kill. But then if you're trying to like take people on your own, you're not built to go one on one with people because you're an assassin. So if I try to take people on and I die, they're like, oh, you're fucking terrible. You can't even. And I'm like, dude, I'm like literally not getting any kills because you can't do anything but stand and watch me die. So it's like,
Oh,
yeah,
I get that pain so much. That's why I switched to support.
well, I'm the same. I try to. I think I've worked Enchantress the last couple of games because.
Oh, she's my main.
Oh, nice! Oh, I love it.
Love her.
I love her. I love her character, but her voice annoys me sometimes because it's like an Irish voice or something like that.
I don't even.
She's like,
It's Sprink.
Sprink. Yeah, that's exactly what she does. Sprink all the time, and then she throws big spears at you and kills you in 2 seconds. But
Oh, I
yeah,
love
I think Ricky and Sniper have been like my mains for years, but then Sniper's I think I've used less because he's more of a noob character. Like people play Sniper just to get the feel for a game.
Yeah,
Like you play him in the tutorial, so it says a lot about what kind of character he is. But
yeah.
um,
Or
yeah,
Drill
you got.
Ranger.
Oh yeah, oh god, yeah. There's so many. Like I couldn't even. I'm trying to think who we've played the last couple of games apart from Ricky and that. I think the last one I played was Phoenix. Phoenix's mother main.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
he's a really good support. So yeah, I love Phoenix.
Oh, you're
And
giving me the itch to play Dota.
man, we should be playing Dota.
Yeah, we
Well,
should.
we just became best friends anyway, so we can add each other on Steam after this. That'll be the next.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
Overwatch.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, but the only thing is the time difference always kills you because it's the same when I try to game people in America. It's always like, you want a game? I'm like, oh man, I'm just going to bed. Like, oh,
Oh,
fuck.
yeah, or I
Yeah,
just woke up. I'm going to work.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
fantastic.
hard.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Anyway, we'll figure something out. I'm sure we'll get a game at one point like that.
Yeah,
But yeah, the only thing I need to say now is thank you very much for coming on. Thank you
yeah,
for giving me time to talk to me. It was awesome. This is definitely one of the more fun episodes. I definitely felt it was more like a fun conversation than an interview. So
yeah. Thanks for having me. This was really fun.
Yeah, man, really enjoyed it. Yeah, to all you guys, if you've got any questions or any comments, just leave them down below. I'm sure Lydia will get back to you, or I'll leave our details below as well if you want to get in touch with her on ArtStation. And then just check out the rest of the episodes. We've got a lot more coming up. And then if you have any suggestions for any future guests, just let me know in the comments. Again, I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. And apart from that, just thanks to Lydia again for coming on, and I'll speak to you guys later.
Thank you.
Bye.